Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special series called Talking to People Who Talk to Animals. And my very first special guest is Miss Alesha Tietzel.
Hey, Saul, thank you.
Hi. So, you are definitely one of the people in my life when I think of people who talk to animals. I'm like, you were one of the first people that popped into my mind. And I know you sort of started off your like you grew up and were brought up on a farm. Is that correct?
Yeah, a
So
hobby farm, not a farm, depending on where you are in the world as to what farm means. But
yeah.
yeah.
So what was that like for you, and what kind of like animals were you interacting with, and when did you first start kind of falling in love with animals, I guess?
Um, well, I guess probably one of the first beings that I met would have been when I came home from the hospital, I would say, would be a German Shepherd called Bundy. And that was a main man in mum and dad's world, and soon to become a main man in my world as well. And fast forward, we always had pets. We had dogs, we had cats, and then when we moved out to the farm, we had geese, we had ducks, we had chooks, we had a cow, we had a horse, we had we had everything. Plus, we had all of the wild animals that you discover in Australia as well. We even had a cockatoo named George. His favorite saying was "Shut up, George." Because
Was Bundy named after Bundy rum? We have in Australia a drink called Bundaberg rum.
exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, very Australian.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
what are some of your first memories of like actually interacting with the animals?
Oh man, that's so cool. That's a cool question. Well, I don't recall this, but mum tells me when I was really little, like just a toddler, we lived in this property out west, and it was a cattle station, and there was no yard. The cows came right up to the house windows, and at nighttime they would. Mum said that they would come to my window, and for a time they would be at my window, and she would find me hiding in the closet. And so I guess in some ways that would be maybe two. I was talking to them. They were talking to me, and
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do with it. So into the closet I went, into the cupboard I went.
That's very cool. I know like myself and my partner Tiffany, we used to live down in a property that was surrounded by farmland, and it was all cattle. And one morning we woke up and like we could just hear this really loud chewing noise, and we're like, what the hell? Like, it wasn't a normal noise for what we were used to. And some of the cattle had broken through the fence that separated our property from the farmland, and the cows were just going to town on all of the bushes in our garden. And it was so loud, it was amazing. Yeah. So you grew up around animals, and do you recall the first time that you actually sort of recognized that you had an ability to actually talk to the animals?
That's a really interesting question. I'm just flicking back through the memories.
Well, because I know as well, like, it doesn't always, like, when people listening and everything might be like, well, what would that be like? And I think, like you were saying, when you were young, you were already doing it, already being it. but I know sometimes when we have these things going on in our life, we kind of don't allow ourselves to actually know it until we sort of have proof or something, you know, or it's like it's always happening. But there's just sometimes for some people, there's something that sticks out in particular that's like, oh my God, I just spoke to an animal.
Yeah, there was, and exactly what you said. There was a whole bunch of time where it was just normal. And what really sticks into my mind was I had a particularly rough day at school, and we lived out of town and there was not a lot of people. So you could hike for hours and hours. And we had 2 German Shepherds, cross Huskies. So I would take those guys, and I'd climb to the top of the mountain and we would sit there and I would talk to them. And we would sit 3 in a row looking out over the space. And when you ask that question, a really distinctive memory of Padge responding came to mind, you know. But I thought that was normal, like, you know, or that was in my head and I was making it up, and you know, as the years go on, it happens more and more, and different animals have different personalities.
Totally.
Like, so yeah.
And I think different ways of also communicating with us. And I think like sometimes as well, it's that thing of where, you know, like it will, you know, we're cute and not that bright. And it's like sometimes it takes quite a few times before we'll actually acknowledge, you know, what's going on. Well, I know in my case anyway. And apparently someone wants to say hello because he's sitting at my feet going, what's going on? So Buster,
Hello, Buster.
say hello,
Hello, Buster.
Hi.
Hello, puppy.
He might have a secret agenda of like some yummy dinner that's, you know, being prepared, but you know, we'll just pretend that he wants to come and say hello to everyone.
Exactly. It's been too long.
Yeah, not so secret agenda. So cool. So then I know, like, you know, life goes on, and so you spent time sort of in and out of places where there was like lots of land and lots of animals, and you're currently well, you were like living in Brisbane. And talk about a little bit about what's city life like with animals and talking to animals, and how's that different to what you knew growing up on a farm?
Well, I didn't think I could live in the city. It took me some convincing to get there, and quite a number of access classes, and I did it. And I distinctly recall some of the questions that I asked as I moved into the home and asked about the place that we would live in. And at that point in time, I'd taken quite a few talk to the animals classes, and I recall questions about asking the birds to come in. So when I moved there, I remember specifically calling the birds in. Hey, come and be in this space more. And it was really cool because when we first moved in, it was crow central, and now there's parrots and galahs and pigeons and butcherbirds and cockatoos and the occasional crow, but it's very different. It's a very different energy there now. And I've made friends with all of the neighbors' pets. And I go on walks, and it's not a long walk, but it takes me a long time because I've got lots of mates to stop in and see along the way.
quick cup of tea with the neighbors.
Yeah, the 4-legged neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that because it's like, you know, I guess one of the things that, you know, we talk about in Access as a tool that you can use is like really being the energy of what you would like to invite into your life. And some other guests that I will be having on later, Tim and Tanya Bothams, I remember being on a class with them, and they were talking about, if you look at the way that nature answers your call, it's like, how could you use that with everything else in your life as well? And it's like this really great way of starting to play with this ability to actually ask for things and receive them. And nature does so well at listening and contributing and gifting, and if we're willing to receive, we can really ask for so much. So it's really, that's really
You know
awesome.
what? You know what, Saul, as well. People are really good at hearing that call as well, because in the 2.5 years that I've lived in the city, there's been a very short amount of time where I haven't had pets, other people's pets, in the house. Guinea pigs,
Yeah.
dogs, cats, so many animals, and sometimes
Yeah.
all together at the same time. So it's like Dr. Doolittle's farm in our house sometimes.
Yeah. And it reminds me too of, there was once a 7-day event on, and it was called something like "Where Did All the Animals Go?" And I remember just at that time when that class was on, like that question just sort of kept like reverberating around, in my brain, in my world. And I started noticing animals a whole lot more. And, just even being that question, like if you're watching this and, you live in, I don't know, an apartment up in the sky, it's like, what if you asked for, where are the animals, and, to come and find you, and to be that energy of inviting the animals. And, who knows, you might start getting some birds visiting you, or who knows how it'll show up. But it's like, this is one of the capacities that we have, to really ask and receive a different possibility. And the animals can hear us. So, yeah. I know you have a very special relationship as well with a particular scaly friend called Artemis. And do you want to talk a little bit about how Artemis came into your life, and what sort of, I know you've got some really great stories. Like I saw a video the other day of Artemis and Sarah's dog Frankie, like sitting next to each other on the grass. And I'm like, how is that possible? My dog would be trying to eat Artemis right now.
Years ago, I had a bearded dragon. His name was Fantas, and then I went to go overseas, and obviously can't take a lizard overseas, so I gifted him to a family that just adored him. And when I came back to Australia, I moved out into the country, into a property, and I could hear a lizard. I don't know if that makes sense, but I could hear a lizard in my future. And hey, I talked to them. Hey, them, Artemis and Angelica. I could hear them. They picked their names, and for about 12 months, I had this awareness of another lizard that I thought was one, and it was two, come into my future. And I was out working on a cattle station way out west, Kia Ora, and there they were. And hey, do you want to come home? Yep. And just like that, you bend over, pick them up, and thus started the adventure of these guys, and adventures we've had.
Yeah. So was that like from a pet store, or were they in the wild, or how?
They were in the wild. Yep.
Yeah, I got that. That's so cool. So, is that the bearded dragon sort of native like habitat in, like, can you talk a little bit about like what the landscape is like, and
Yeah.
Where you found them? And
Yeah. They live in dry climate like that. Out west is quite dry. It's red earth, low rainfall, dry, dusty, place. It's quite hot, and they have this really cool thing that, like, when it rains, they'll like arch like this, like a banana, so that the rain can run down, and then they dip their head and they'll drink when it rains, which is so cool. And in the wild as well, like, everyone thinks that they look really scary and that, oh, they're going to bite me, but their defense mechanism is to blow up like a balloon and then turn like a really dark color, and that's their, like, get away from me. It's all a bluff, really. And so, quite in the wild, when I was working out there, you would drive along in a paddock, and it will be a crop paddock or a pasture, a grazing pasture, and you have the stays, like the fence posts, and you'd see giant beardies just sitting on the top of the post. And I guess I have kind of an energy that's quite comfortable around them, so I can just wander over and just pick up this wild giant beardy, and just, hey, how you doing? Let the kids touch them, put them back, and away you go again. And I've done that so many times. And lizards of all different sizes, bearded dragons, or water dragons. I wouldn't go attempting to pick up blue tongues or skinks or that kind of thing, because they'll have a bite. Yeah.
That's funny, because when you were describing that, I was picturing, all of these lizards as you were driving along, just like blowing up like balloons all over the place with their defense mechanisms.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what they do, and that's how they swim too. So, like, sometimes, I'll run some cool water, and you put Artemis in the sink, and he'll just suck in a whole heap of air, and he'll blow up like a balloon, and then he'll kind of like wave his legs and wiggle his tail, and that's how they swim. They float, which is very cool.
That's amazing. And I know my son as well, we've visited you and Artemis quite a few times, and he loves playing with Artemis and feeding.
He comes for the lizard.
Yeah. And I've also, Artemis is a bit of a celebrity these days. He gets around, does the rounds, and knows everyone. So, very famous lizard. You got to start an Instagram account for Artemis, I think.
He does. He's great. Actually, someone said that to me not long ago as well. He's a great medicine. I went to visit some friends, and their young fella, he's about 5. He was quite upset, and I had Artemis, and I said, do you want to hold him? He's like, yes. Instant smile, no more tears. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to see you tomorrow. Do you want to keep him for the night? Oh my gosh. Makes for a very happy young man. Yeah.
Amazing. And so both yourself and myself are in the process of becoming Talk to the Animals certified facilitators, which is a specialty of Access Consciousness. Yay, we're very excited.
Soul.
Yes, virtual high fives. And I know, like, so we in these classes, it's a facilitator training, so it's learning about, how to facilitate people with talking to the animals, but it's also like hands-on, like, so, and we practice actually working with people and their animals. And you actually worked with a lion from a resort, not a resort, a safari, like wildlife, what is it, a
sanctuary, a predator sanctuary.
And it was pretty amazing to see that interaction and everything. And I might be hard to put it into words, but do you have anything that you can talk to about that amazing experience?
Oh man, well, what would be a contribution to say here, because that was phenomenal and truly, well, life-changing for me. I received as much from it as she did in facilitation. It was, it That's true contribution, right? Animals really, she really showed me that space where I was contributing to her and her world and receiving at the same time with, there was no agenda, only what can I contribute to you and your body, and that conversation and being with her, that was really special. Yeah, and
That's yeah. I mean, that's brilliant. And I think one of the key things there as well is a lot of people have, this idea of like, we're here to help the animals and, the poor animals, but like actually, what I think everyone got from on that class was what a gift the animals can also be to us. And like you said, that simultaneity of gifting and receiving and the contribution that you can be and receive for each other. And it's a whole kingdom of animals that we share this earth with. So it's very special to have an interaction like that with with an animal that I guess is becoming rarer and rarer, and just special in many ways.
yeah, truly. And to perceive her personality, like, you can talk to all animals of all shapes and sizes. You can speak to the ants, you can speak to bees, you can speak to all of them, right? And to have
Yeah.
the opportunity to speak to a lion, particularly when we're in Australia. I mean, that's, yeah. How did we get so lucky? What a gift.
So do you have anything like, for the people that are watching, from your experience, like anyone who might be interested in talking to the animals, like what's one thing that you would say, or what's one thing that you would give people that they can start to, open up to talking to the animals in their life?
Yeah, just talk like you and I are talking, you know. You might have like Frankie, hey Frankie, what's up? How you doing today? And then you will receive that however you receive that. You might get a sense of an energy, you might hear some words, you might see some pictures, whatever that is for you. What if there was no right way, just a play and an exploration? And if you've not been speaking to your animal, and you want to start, they might be like, oh my gosh, what's happening? They might have some surprise that suddenly there you are and you're communicating and being with them in a different way. And then explore, come from that place of true curiosity that anything's possible. Just ask a question.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. And so yeah, as I said before, we're both becoming Talk to the Animals facilitators, and you can find out more at talktotheanimals.com. And I'm going to take a stab here, but if you want to find what Alesha's doing in the world, her profile on the Access Consciousness website. And yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, you can message me anywhere.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you so much. And yeah, really, it's been a great gift having you. And as I said, you definitely popped as one of the people that I know that, talk to animals and have a gift and a capacity with it. So thanks for sharing your knowledge. And look forward to seeing all of you guys next week for another talking to people who talk to animals. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sil.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.